and go.
Arms our countdown guy. Welcome NOFC fans for the NOFC podcast. We're on episode double deuces. Double deuces. We have the title, which is going to be Answering the Call, First Responder Trauma Awareness and Resilience, with our, in Carm's word, esteemed guest, Phil Salinardi, who is a retired New York State Police investigator who retired while being on the EAP. EAP is Employee Assistance Program. Phil is also a retired United States Marine Corps veteran. Carm, do your thing and introduce this, what I would call specimen.
Specimen? You made him
Yes.
sound like a science experiment.
He is a specimen. Go for it.
Welcome, esteemed guest and
Yes.
loyal viewers and those who are new to the podcast. I'm Carm. That's Jay. In the middle, I think it's the middle for everybody, is Phil Salinardi. He's our special guest. Jay and I have both worked with Phil extensively in the state police. He is quite simply nothing short of amazing. And I know I say that about many of the people that we have on, but the people that we have on, we really do value. And that's why they're on, because they're excellent people. And Phil's no different. Before we do the introduction to and let Phil have his thing, I just want to mention that August 16th was the anniversary of Trooper John J. McKenna's death in the line of duty. John was also a U.S. Marine Corps veteran, a combat veteran, multiple tours. John died on August 16th, 2006. I worked with John in Kingston. I helped familiarize him to the patrol area. He was a great guy. He was shot by a sniper in Fallujah, Iraq, as John was rescuing Lance Corporal Mike Glover, if I remember correctly, the name. True hero. John's family is an amazing family. John was an amazing human being. Thank you to all our veterans, and especially in remembrance of John's anniversary of his death. So without further ado, I want to say also that we're not experts. I said this during episode 4. We're not experts in this field. Phil is an expert. That's why we wanted to have him on to talk about trauma awareness, PTSD, critical incident stress, whatever title or moniker you use to describe it. Jay and I have our fair share of dealing with some of this stuff, and I personally have used Phil's expertise and services, and I want to get on the topic of trauma awareness. Phil, tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Sure. Thank you for having me, gentlemen, and simplify to the memory of John McKenna. At 2006, I was actually, just to touch on that, a few of us Marines were allowed to leave the academy. I was in the academy at that time to attend Captain McKenna's funeral. And when we got there and realized what had happened, we didn't know the story. We knew that he was killed in action, and that Glover's funeral would be the next day. So they let us out of the academy. If you were in the Marine Corps, you had dress blues. We attended that funeral. It was very, very sad. There was a huge show of support. And a few of us that attended that funeral wanted to show that same support for Lance Corporal Glover. And but it's hard to believe that was back in 2006. But yeah, a little bit about me. I grew up blue collar family, raised in Jersey City. Don't hold that against me. Attended Seton Hall, full ride, and 2001, we obviously know what happened September of that year. For all of you that was on the job at that time, kudos for running toward the danger. That's one of the reasons I became a New York State Trooper, is because of the professionalism that you all demonstrated down there. 8 years Marine Corps, 3 combat tours. It was just a natural transition to join the New York State Police. When I was a young kid, I wanted to be a Marine and a trooper. I thought it'd be a Jersey trooper, but New York called first. Nevertheless, the impact made on me when I was donating blood, anything I can do during 9/11, but seeing how the New York State Police, responded, and their level of professionalism, that was the route for me. During that career, I always had a passion for helping my fellow colleague, friend. And when the EAP program I didn't know much about it, but there was a canvas. I read it. I said, "Oh, that sounds like something that's probably really hard, right? Like they probably know who they want for that spot." Um, but there was a someone I work with, a coworker, actually brought the canvas to me, and he said, "Yeah, everyone calls me Sal. Sal, you have to put in for this. I think you would be very good at." Um, I said, "Eh?" He goes, "Yeah, like this is carved out for someone like you." And I'm actually glad I took his advice because this is a good thing. Am I allowed to like say his name, or is that a no-no here?
Sure.
It was
You
actually
can.
TJ Tui. See, TJ, but he was the one that brought to me. And he said, "You'll be perfect at this." And it was an interview process. At the time, the position was regional, so it was Rockland, Westchester, the five boroughs, and Long Island. Um, and 2016, I took the first steps in a life of just providing support to our brothers and sisters in blue, to getting them through tons of life crisis and just the yuck of things. Um, and that you know, last year December, I retired, um, and I intended to stay retired, but
I know a little bit about that too.
yeah, but when you treat people right, right, and you do the right thing, more importantly, when no one is looking, right?
Yep.
Uh, it's funny how the universe tends to notice things like that, right? Uh, I got a phone call from retired Captain Pete Sirigliano, who's currently the commissioner for emergency services in Orange County, and Deputy Commissioner Robert Doss, who was formerly the police chief of town of New Windsor. And they had a vision to establishing a peer support program for Orange County first responders. And they asked me to come on board, and I gave it some thought. I went over with my family. Um, I'm sure both of you could attest to this. Like our families watch us um, throughout our police career, and they kind of know when you had a bad day.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every day I went to work was terrible, but the exposure to other people's trauma. If you're not a human being, like being a good human being, it will affect you, right? And then not being able to tell anyone about it because it's all confidential adds another level of interesting suppression, right? Uh, but I talked it over with them and explained what the vision was. It was necessarily for me to continuously be available all the time. However, if someone ever calls, I'm there. But to establish a large team to go out and do that outreach, so more helping hands, and through the support of the county executive Steve Newhouse, it was a go. And 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 here's another thing I would like to add. It was a bipartisan, unanimous vote to have this created, which in today's culture, I'm going to be honest with you, Carm, you and I used to talk about this stuff all the time. To
Yep.
have, it's good to see Republicans and Democrats get along together,
Amen to that.
especially when it's something that's going to help our first responders. And I'll always be partial to the police officers, but last 5 years, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been tough on our line of work. So that was good to see.
If you don't mind me asking, I want to just go back very quickly to the state police days, if you would, and I put a brief explanation, very very brief explanation of what EAP means. Obviously, it means Employee Assistance Program. If you would go back to the state police component and describe what EAP is about, what they did, how they helped
Oh, absolutely.
in that
Yeah.
prior capacity.
Yeah. So just to make it like, so people who aren't in the state police to understand it. So for the state police, all of the regional coordinators and the director, they're sworn members. Most agencies, if they have an EAP, an employee assistance program, it's like an outsourced civilian program. The state police, New York State Police, is unique in the sense that ours is internal, and we have like any all of the coordinators and the director are sworn police officers. So, and some agencies, if it's a civilian-based EAP, they don't feel very comfortable with talking to someone who doesn't get what they do. Whereas with the state police, when you call one of those numbers, you're getting another cop, right? You're getting someone who gets it. Um, in other places, what state police calls EAP is actually peer support,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's peers helping peers. So that's how it works in the state police. 1986, a wonderful human being, God rest his soul, Dr. Richard Ovens, Dick Ovens.
Yep.
He was a retired captain off our job, became a psychologist. He created the program. I believe back then it was himself and a helper. And over the years, it went from 3 people to 4 to 6. When I came on, I was number 7. Now I think it's troop specific, or they may be up to 11, which is great. My opinion, it should be 2 coordinators per troop minimum. The more hands to help, the better. So yeah, and basically what the employee assistance program does for the state police is you know they assist. It's a confidential program that assists members, sworn and non-sworn. So sworn, you carry a gun. Non-sworn, you're one of our civilian members, and their families. So it's very unique to the sense that they're not leaving the families out of this. And in a world of law enforcement, we understand how important our families are, especially holding down the fort while we're able to go out there and help the people we're trying to assist. And it can be an array of things. So my time with the state police, I can speak for myself. Critical incidents, when there's a shooting, when there's a horrible injury to one of our members, we assist if someone has a sick family member. We try to do our best, whether that's trying to get them to appointments to limit the amount of stress on the families, trying to with easy pass costs and parking costs. We all know that most of the good hospitals are down in the city. So where we can help out, we try to. Disciplinary actions, right? Uh, there was a policy kind of put in place that anyone that's any member that's disciplined with under 5 years, it's should be a referral to EAP. I always took it one step further, like members who had 20 plus on, if they got disciplined for something, I always felt it was good to reach out to them, because if they've never been in trouble, right? If you've never been in trouble, everyone's going to have the same reaction when they get in trouble, right? Just means, you're in different stages of your career. Unfortunately, one of the downsides of the position was assisting our families through line of duty deaths, right? And those are always tough because it's always someone we know. I was talking to Jay before you got on, Carmen. It's with the line of duties, it's always someone you're gonna know.
Yeah.
And trying to set up assist the family in setting up funerals. The administrative part, affidavits of next of kin and all of that stuff. We try to take as much stress off the family so they can concentrate on grieving, so that it's kind of I don't want to say anything easy about it, but it just whatever we can do to alleviate the stress on that grieving family, we try to do. If there was any drawback to the position, it was that. Um, you know, I make friends with the people I meet. We've lost people to 9/11 cancers, and during that time, you're having a lot of laughs and a lot of cries with selfless people who put themselves in harm's way in the days of those attacks. So that's one of the things we do. Assisting members with alcohol or substance abuse issues, right? Vetting mental health professionals. What I mean by vetting is I would never send anyone to talk to a clinician that I haven't sat down with for an hour and spoke to. That's just me. If I wouldn't go to that person or send my family to that person, why would I send, people I care just as much about to someone who wouldn't have their best interests? So that's another aspect of what we do. or what I did. And then, outside agencies, not everyone has the budget to set aside, a member just for uh, peer support, right?
Mhm.
So if an outside agency called and they needed assistance, we absolutely would render that to them. And I think I covered pretty much
Yeah.
in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to put Mr. Sal here on pause for a second. I'm going to rewind before we can. We spoke um, about a few things. First of all, TJ Chewy, thank you, by the way, for bringing that up to Phil Salinardi, because that was probably one of the best choices Division could have made.
Yep.
Phil and I had a little bit of a relationship. We spoke about this again before we were recording. He was on the Tim's unit, traffic. What was the acronym? Traffic
Traffic
incident management.
Yep.
Yeah. So the highway guys, and then I was in the commercial vehicle unit. And we saw each other quite often, and we developed a relationship, and it was a genuine relationship. We were really cool with each other. And fast forward my
Which
last few years in
is rare for
Haverstraw.
Jay.
What's that?
Which is rare for Jay.
Yeah. Fast forward down when I was in Haverstraw, and he was in the position of investigator in the EAP. And on a regular basis, this is just me validating, because I don't normally do this with our guests because I don't know, right? Some of the guests, like Eric Elt's last episode, I don't know him. Some of the guests that you have on, I don't know him, but I know Phil personally, so I'm going to speak on it. So he would come into the station and specifically greet everybody, whether they were a well-liked trooper or whether they were the ones that were the problem. He would greet them and ask them specific questions, not just like, hey, man, what's going on? He would say, hey, how's your family? How's Gloria, your wife? And how are your kids doing? And we talked about this before, Phil and I, because he said that was what was important to him as he was moving up the ranks. When a supervisor said, hey, man, how's so-and-so doing in your family? That meant the world and made you feel like, hey, that's pretty cool that not only does he know a little bit about me, but he is at least showing that he is pretending to care about my family, if nothing else. And then he would do I don't know if it was because it probably wasn't, but it made me feel special. He would give a handshake, a little tap on the shoulder, and be like, hey, bro, listen, I hope all's good. He's like, if you ever need anything, you have my number anytime, anywhere. Just give me a call. We could talk about whatever you need. And fortunately, I never needed that. But Phil was always that guy that, in my opinion, put himself out there. And it wasn't in a manufactured way. It was in a true human being way. Eric Eltz, again, I'll always refer to him. He said, when you come across just a good human being, and we're talking to one now, and you could tell in his mission. I really appreciate everything you've done and are doing currently. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And I'm going to go one step further. When I was the senior investigator down in Haverstraw, where everybody hated Jay, I will say that I'm kidding. Not everybody hated Jay. Most everybody loved Jay because Jay's fucking awesome. I'm just being a dick. So when I was the senior down there, I had the opportunity to deal with some personnel complaints and against troopers and against investigators and even from other stations where you're kind of, you're covering as the senior and you have to be the supervisor. And my interactions with Phil were always fantastic. You were always there literally to shake everybody's hand and to check in, to do the mental check-ins. As police officers, we tend to be dismissive of the vicarious trauma, right? The trauma that you described earlier from our collective experiences of dealing with other people's direct trauma. And you and I kind of formed a bit of a bond down there in dealing with a number of critical incidents and dealing with people on that level. And you, I have to say, were fantastic. A lot of people didn't want to talk to EAP because there's a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for, Phil? There's a little bit
Stigma.
of a stigma attached that you are somehow attached to internal affairs, which you're not. And you were above and beyond other people who you replaced. You were very interactive for that. So I want to say thank you for that as well. Great interactions with you down there. And we cross paths quite frequently.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate that. Yeah. That And I just I'll touch on this. On another thing. Like when I start talking about like some good tips, I wanted to give people some good tips to just maybe you don't want to do peer support as your full job, but you still want to enact some tips to make you a better person. So Carm was one of those people. Like I don't know if you just you're a damn good cop, because I would come in sometimes, like on my way back, I stop in the station from like Long Island, and Carm would be there, right? And it's just like, stretch my legs and stuff, stop into the station. He's like, hey, Sal, you okay? You good? And, and just that interaction of having that conversation. So I would let you know. I didn't let you know then, but I'll let you know now. There was 2 times where you were at the station late, and I came in just to stretch my legs, use the head, and then head back north where I live. That you took time to talk to me. I needed those conversations, brother, because they were terrible days, right? It was just, I was coming back from stuff that really, because of confidentiality, we don't want getting out. And they were heavy, man. It was people going through pain that I wish I could have taken away.
Yeah.
And having someone, a boss, like take the time out of his schedule. And it looked like you were doing some shit too. You had stuff all over your desk, you were filing stuff. It looked like you were getting ready for some kind of inspection, and you
He's
took
just
time.
unorganized. That's all it is.
But he took time out, and it was late, and you took time out. You did that twice, and I really appreciate it, so thank you.
Happy to help you after having helped all of the people that you've helped.
That's for real.
Very briefly, I want to go over a couple of statistics that I had compiled, and I won't give up the source of where I got it because a lot of the stuff is kind of unconventional. It's estimated 65% of police officers suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, and that it's another estimate is that that police officers respond to over 200 critical incidents in their career compared to just a few for the average person or the average civilian. What are your thoughts about those stats? And to go deeper down the rabbit hole with you about what you just spoke about, how do you think it's affected you long term?
Oh yeah, sure. So that statistic it's extremely accurate, right? So the 65%, all right, it's probably higher, right? Um, you're never going to be able to get cops to honestly take an anonymous survey. We've seen what happened in Major League Baseball with anonymous testing results, right? So it's just not going to happen. I think that number is higher, right? But still, 65% is super high. But of course, that would happen, right? And I'll go into that. So the exposure to a critical incident. So in that number, it was like responding to it. If you go off of just how often they're exposed, that number is probably at 400. And then the average person in America, 2 to 3. But remember, and this is one thing that jumps off. So keep in mind, in that statistic, that's including, anyone in the age group that was alive during 9/11, which was put on television. So that was a huge critical incident that's part of that number. First responders, it's probably around 400 critical traumatic events in a lifetime. And we know that it takes a toll because in the police world, right, life expectancies 5 years ago was 64.7. Now there's some progress. It's up to 66, right? When we were all working, you would get your emails, right? The emails, Major so-and-so regrets to notify people of the passing. I mean, how many were you reading that, like, for every one that was like 92 and 88, which I hope we all get there, but there were some that jumped out 63, 57, 64, it's scary, right? It's not just all diet. It's a lot of it has to do with why the diet is bad. Why is there a lack of wanting to exercise, right? What are we having a feeling that we lack a purpose? And all of it has to go back with that continuous exposure to trauma, right? We know doing this line of work, if you're a first responder, right, it's a huge cross to bear. Someone has to do these jobs. And thank God it was people like yourselves. Thank God it's people that are currently active police officers, fire, EMS, 911 dispatchers, corrections officers. Someone has to do those jobs. And thank you. for doing them. Um, and PTSD, though not curable, right? It is 100% manageable. And that's where peer support comes in. That's where, like, the state police EAP unit, that's the reason that after following a critical incident, God forbid a suicide, God forbid a line of duty death, right? You'll have trained personnel, um, peers, so to say. So sworn police officers or fellow firefighters that are trained in what they call critical incident stress management go in to do a critical incident stress management debrief. Those things are designed to, under a guided curriculum, have the participants verbalize, right, feelings that they're having. So they're able to verbalize those emotions and put them out into the universe, which does help, right? It's why we feel better after arguing with a friend and then talking it out a few days later. Um,
Yeah.
Things like that can manage that PTSD long term. It assists in processing what happened, and then the follow up, right? So anyone who wants to get involved in peer support, it's not about the initial contact, right? Anyone can do that. It's about the follow up, right? Checking in with them, seeing if it gets to the point where they require a higher level of care. And what I mean by that is maybe, you know, the event that happened, maybe it's causing some nightmares and they have sleep deprivation, right?
Uh-huh.
Advising them to get with their primary healthcare physician so that that sleep deprivation don't become chronic sleep deprivation, right? Or, talking it out in a general counseling with myself or maybe a best friend at home or maybe one of their parents isn't working, right? They're still feeling that sense of guilt or tightness or fear or anger. Um, Being able to give them a referral to speak to a vetted clinical mental health professional. And I use that word vetted, right? Because there's people who just have it in their head how they feel about certain uh, lines of work. And police officers, we weren't popular for a while. So finding people who genuinely specialize in the American first responder. If any one of you ever came to me, you're not going to get someone who you're going to get someone who specializes in the American first responder. So that's important as well.
I will say on a on a personal note too, I'm not ashamed to say this too. At one point that I sought a little bit of help, and I reached out to you personally for a recommendation on who to talk to about something, and and I did. I talked, had a number of sessions, and talked to that person, and that person was on point and had the fact that they were personally recommended by you was a bit of a relief for me because you never know who you're going to talk to and whether you can feel comfortable talking to them and telling them the stuff that you're dealing with. And so thank you for that. And it's nice to have somebody in the position like you who actually really does care. A lot of people in the stigma attached to EAP didn't want to talk to people. Everybody seemed to be okay. Not everybody, but a lot of people seem to be okay talking to you and telling you about the stuff that they're going through. That said, uh, how did and how do you decompress yourself? What do you do to deal with your
Yeah.
vicarious trauma?
Yeah, so because I absolutely love you guys' podcasts. I'm going to give a little bit, right? Because I think it's important. Maybe I'll say something that one of your viewers is going through. So we're going to go back through time a little bit. I mean, is it cool to go over this? Like, I think it's important.
Absolutely.
So, 2007. My last combat tour with the United States Marine Corps. At the time now, I'm already a New York State trooper, so I'm a reservist. And I get back home, all I want to do is go to work, right? At the time, I was a single guy with a dog, and that was it. No family that lived in New York. I think the worst decision I could have made was to get off of orders and then return to work. Um, that year of work, the remainder of 2007 to 2008, it was pretty heavy. There was a lot of shifts and changes going on in my life, and like things got out of control, right? Developed a little bit of a drinking problem. And a lot of that had to do with me trying to suppress, right? What was going on so I could at least shut my eyes and get some sleep. So you drink kind of to like black out and get sleep. At least that's what I told myself at the time. And it luckily I had a sister in my life and some really good people surrounding me that and my sister passed away this year, so God rest her soul.
Sorry to
Um
hear that.
Yeah, very
yeah,
sorry.
thank you. That actually contacted my childhood doctor and they showed up to, at my house to take a vested interest in what was going on, and they didn't want me to spiral out of control, right? Um, and then I was able to go someplace through the VA services that was able to hit that reset button, right? And I learned a few things. I was an alcoholic, fortunate enough, but I was uh, I was trying to suppress things that I was experiencing, which had all to do with PTSD. Um, and because I was alone, I had no one really there to tell me, hey, that's a bad idea, right? I just had a dog. But Jay, you could attest to this. No matter how much you talk to your dog, it's not going to talk back to you. However, if it does, call me. I got a good guy you could talk to. But so fast forward, right? That was my first intro to clinical, and I tell the story because it was my first intro to like therapy, right? Um, and taking it seriously. So now you fast forward 2016, I joined the state police employee assistance program. I'm now able to, preach to people the very mechanisms that I'm practicing. So what I do now to decompress, what I think is very important is so there's two types of people in the world, in my opinion, right? This isn't a fact. There's people in therapy and people that should be in therapy, right? Therapy should not be looked at as a taboo, right?
Yeah.
I have a therapist, people. Everyone out there, I have a therapist. I'm proud of that, right? Uh, and like a car, preventative maintenance is cheaper and better than corrective maintenance. So I call it the quarterly session, right? So quarterly, a year, whether things are going great in my life or things are spiraling out of control, I make sure that I am sitting across from someone or on the phone or virtually, and I am having a session. That's actually very healthy, and I encourage people to give that a shot. If traditional therapy isn't your thing, one of the things that I just found out about it, I'm starting to because I've gotten requests, but equine therapy is something that's up and coming. It's amazing. At first, I was afraid, I was petrified, but with the help of the with the help of these guided counselors with these beautiful animals, it's something that's catching on. I kind of like that one a little better than traditional therapy. um, so I have addictive behavior, decompressing wise, so I'm always going to be addicted to something. uh, at the moment, you want to, so if anyone out there has addictive behavior, if it's a bad addiction, you want to supplement that with a good one. Working out, right? uh, Coach your kids team,
Yeah.
right? Uh, I'm trying to think of some paint. Um,
Hike.
hiking
Yeah.
is huge, right? Less wear and tear than running a 5K. If you like to run a 5K. Hell, run a 20K. Do whatever it is. If it's healthy, if it's going to benefit your body, you know. And those are things that I preach. I got into raising chickens, right? That's something that I like to decompress
I
with.
remember the story because we almost instituted a chicken program at SB Haverstraw off
I,
duty, if you remember.
Yeah, I was going to supply the chickens to
Yes,
SP Haverstraw. It was during the egg crisis.
exactly.
Hey,
Troopers
Phil,
always find a workaround.
before you go too crazy into this, which I want to hear because this is going to be, in my opinion, one of the top episodes. I can already tell by now. But um, careful if you need to be. But can you share what is, in your opinion, you can do your EAP time with the state police, or you can generalize. What would you consider the biggest the most common stressor, or the biggest mental challenge with police officers, if there is one? If you can say that there's a most common mental challenge or stressor within our life or lifestyles, if you know.
Yes. So I'll tell you this. So like because of the schedule we work and because we're always at a heightened sense of awareness, we go to a restaurant, we have to sit with our back to the wall so we could see everyone going in. We take our kids to the movie, no, we got to sit on this side to the right. Most shootings happen to the left, so we have to sit right. And we're
Yeah.
always armed, right? Like
Yep.
I don't know about you guys, but like I like to be armed because of my experience as a police officer dealing with situations where we know there are a lot of bad people out there.
Yep.
That could be terrible for a family, which is why I like, police officer divorce rates are rather high.
Yeah.
It's because the things you see when you come home, your family asks, "Hey, is everything okay?" And your response is, "Hey, how was your day?" Your response would be, "Good." You keep doing that over time, not only do you become very good at lying to the people who care about you, who are going to be here when you're retired, but you start lying to yourself. And that could bring you down a spiral. So like I would say the biggest issues that I've seen, and I could just go off of my career and what I see now, alcohol, right? Divorce, um, financial woes, typically because of divorce and alcohol, right? Uh, and of recent, right? So kind of all of us have had the unfortunate, like the public's view on police officers changed toward the back end of our career.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm terrified of this, but I would say our young police officers going to work, trying to do a job and hoping that that split second decision they make isn't going to result in them being put in jail, having charges put against them, like getting suspended, losing their job, and at worst, getting killed.
Yep.
Right? I you know, yeah, I would say that is probably the biggest stressor. On the other end, it's someone will get jammed up and it'll be minute. Like I had time on, so I pretty much had a feeling on which way the wind would blow and what punishments were dealt out and kind of tell them like, hey, listen, it's probably going to be like 3 days, or 5 vacation days and a let like you, though we're not the ones that determine that, you kind of can figure
Yep.
it out.
Yeah.
But I would tell you this, the length and time that some of these agencies have that when a person, gets brought up on charges to when it's all finalized, that puts so much stress on the member.
Yeah.
And I would tell people, like I literally I would tell people the anxiety you're going to feel waiting for this to play out is worse than what the punishment's going to be.
Yep.
And I'm a thorns before roses person, right? I'm going to give it to you straight, uh, because I'm obligated to do that, right? I don't want to lie to anyone. Um, yeah, you'll have guys and girls wait, damn near 9 months to to get a letter, whereas they're thinking worst case scenario, like, oh, I'm going to get fired. So any administrators out there, if you could speed that process up, it really would help the member out. Yeah.
I will
I'm
say I
thinking
got
that
PC'd back in 2009 for something that turned out to be completely unfounded, in terms of a disposition, administrative disposition. I got falsely accused of something, and I won't get into details about it, but they took months and months to go through that process. And it's just like you said, it wears on you because you think of every little variable and every caveat that you could think of in the interim about what you could have done better, what you could have done differently, and the fact that your livelihood is being held in the hands of people who are oftentimes very overzealous in their judgment and allocution, if you will, of or delegation of what is going to happen to you, whether you take a suspension or whether you. And obviously, in my particular case, I mentioned it was unfounded, but the toll it took on me mentally made me a really grumpy bastard for a very long time. So I would agree with that.
and it's still going. You still are a grumpy fuck.
No, that's you, my friend.
Yeah, I saw you volleyballed that shit. I had to do it. I remember so getting into I feel like I'm in a session right now, which is good because I will be completely honest. I've never been.
Yeah,
I
somebody who
was
needs
always
therapy.
well, yeah, apparently I do. I mean, we could joke about it all day long, but I was always that guy. I was always the guy that I was everything was always internalized, and then I would take it out, not necessarily aggressively, but inadvertently on family members, and that was me. And I mean, still to this day, when I hold stuff inside, it always leaks out in areas that aren't intended to leak out, rather than self-reflecting and being honest with yourself on where you have the problems. When I was working consistently, it would be getting into a car where the hair on the back of your neck stood up, and maybe the result of that stop wasn't necessarily arrest or anything that happened, but then looking down the line and doing some research on the individual that you pulled over, finding out that not only does that person have a violent criminal history, but they were just arrested, whatever, a few months ago for gun possession or whatever, because that happened at least 1 to 2 times in my career. And I was like, holy cow, like, not only was there then you go into like, what did I miss? What did I miss? What would have happened if I took this one step further, right? And then it's that thought of the unknown,
Yeah.
where I feel like sometimes I got myself into a little bit of a situation where like I went down into that rabbit hole of thinking like, oh man, what happened if this, that, or the other happened? Or if you get yourself in a position where you're not necessarily in a good place.
Well, even your situation too, Jay, with your family situation, without getting into detail, you went through a lot back then, like, and if you're comfortable mentioning that, you can mention it. It's not my business to do that, but you went through a lot, and you are a very solemn, quiet guy when you're going through stuff. And our pseudo therapy sessions tend to be monthly dinners that you and I do with Al, or just the two of us, and where you get stuff off your chest. But that alone was enough to break certain people. And the fact that it didn't break you, I was on the verge of calling Phil about it, but
Yeah.
that's one of those situations where you don't want to step into somebody's personal life or intimidate them or piss them off. It's a razor's edge type situation that Phil knows better than anybody. Right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I think during that time, you and a select few were my lifeline, and it helped out deeply. And coincidentally enough, where that may have been the time where I needed it the most, I think I got what I needed out of it from, unfortunately, not family members, but instead the typical brother from another mother that you have with certain people. So yeah, that was when my daughter was sick back a few years ago, when she had lymphoma cancer, and we were going down to the city every day for either chemo or radioactive or other treatments every single day for 2 years. That sucked, but I was able to talk to you guys about it and get me to a better place. And she's luckily, knocking on wood, she's good and cancer free now for another 2 years. So everything happens for a reason, right? I'm very grateful for the position that I'm at, for sure.
On a funny note, after that, since this is a pretty heavy topic, and Sal, ask Jay about the time where me and Lou Barbaria convinced him to buy a horse for his daughter, and both of us. Jay, do you want to tell the story? Because it's a funny story.
There's humor in it. August 22nd, 2025, but for the past almost 5 years, what is it? 3 years, there's been hardly any humor in it. Yeah. So Phil, I'll save you the hassle of asking the question. I'll just fucking answer it. We were up at Louis Barbaria's place at the time, and my daughter was trying to convince them. She wanted to do a project horse. Speaking of, therapy through equine
therapy.
She is amazingly. I think it's actually the way this podcast is coming together as borderline remarkable, because she has 2 horses. One's 25 now, and the other one's 5. So the older horse was her lifeline when she was sick. She was going through all of her treatments, and my wife and I would not understand how in the world she'd be able to do it. But she would get a hardcore chemo treatment or an immunotherapy treatment and be like bedridden. But she would come home for maybe an hour rest, and then she would go to the barn and she would spend at least an hour to 2 hours with her horse and just bond with her horse, doing some grooming stuff. And that, to her, in her own words,
Yeah.
time and time again, had put her in a better place. So fast forward to the Saugerties up at Louis. She was going to try and flip horses. So she wanted to buy some horses, put some money into them, and train them to be ridden. And then she was going to flip them for a profit.
So
the
let me
horses
tell
she was-
let me tell the story from here because I'm going to tell it better.
Yeah, it's going to be a
So-
little bit more humorous.
So me, Jay, Jay's daughter, I want to say your wife was there too. We're sitting at the bar, Catskill Mountain Moonshine, and up comes the topic of this horse that has no name, and she's and Jay's daughter's really working her magic to try and get him to go for buying the horse, and he's like, "No, I'm not buying this horse. We're not doing this. We're not doing that." And she's like, "But Dad, please." And Jay and I looked at him. I'm like, she's an outstanding young woman and she deserves a horse. And Louis and I were both looking back at each other. And I'm like, you know what? I said to his daughter, I was like, I'm going to Venmo 3,000, whatever it was. Louis and I both Venmoed a couple of $1,000 to Jay and then showed his daughter forcing his hand to buy the horse that he didn't want to buy. And
I
he was
literally
like,
sat there at the bar and looked at my Venmo, and there was $6,000 in there. I'm like, you guys are fucking douchebags. So we had no choice. The horse gets shipped, and that horse has now had 3 colic surgeries. If you know anything about colic, it's not the exact translation, but it's a very similar thing that dogs get, which is bloat. But in horses, their stomachs actually twist, and they can't pass anything through. So she had 2 surgeries, and then in the final surgery, she actually had 6 feet of her colon removed. So horses have, I think, upwards of 50 feet of colon tract. So she had 6 feet of it removed. So this horse, it cost, not only did I pay you guys back because I felt horrible, but this horse has cost us upwards of $50,000.
Oh man.
And yeah, it's funny. This is the funny, yeah. So now I need more counsel and fucking dealing with that. Yeah.
Wow.
It was all worth it. Yeah. So that was a little sidebar.
interestingly, she named the horse Moonshine because
After Louis' place. So
After
this
Louis'
is my
place, yeah.
moonshine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kudos to Louis too because he did the same
Yes.
thing. Because we
Yes.
love your daughter's a great kid and she deserves the horse. So
I would actually agree with that part of it. Yes, she is.
That's
I'm very
outstanding.
proud of her.
quick
So-
question. I actually have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. I do too.
EAP programs or programs of the like in different police agencies around the country. Do you think that tell us your thoughts on it. Do you think that they're good as they exist right now? Do you think there's a lot of room for improvement?
So as long anything is better than nothing. And there's a lot of agencies that's establishing it. In the event that they can't because of budget concerns, manpower issues, like manpower issues is going to be something that's just inevitable. Like it's just hard to recruit cops, right? That's what like a program like what we established here at Orange County Emergency Services is for, right? If they don't have anything, we'll absolutely step in. That's what New York State Police EAP does to the outside agencies, right? For the ones that don't have any, they're there. There's a few other places that do great things. NYLEAP is one of them, NYLEAP. And I'm just trying to, Nassau and Suffolk County and NYPD, EAU, Employee Assistance Unit, Health and Wellness Section. They do great work as well. And the reason that those work is typically if you're going to, in police world, I could speak but really you need it to go from like, you have to take some levels of the chain of command out, right? And that's for confidentiality purposes, right? If the mission is to help your people, which you turn around, if they help their lives, it makes them a better person at home and a more productive person at work. Who wouldn't sign up for that? It can't be treated as a check the box, right? Like, a guy came in and told me, a girl came in and told me that she's going through a divorce. I guess I should call EAP. Like that's it's a great thing to call,
Mhm.
right? But if that's how you're looking at it, maybe talk to them for a little bit, gauge what can you do on your end to make that a little bit better. Maybe they have kids, maybe their schedule is going to change because of visitation. Like, you don't know, but like, it can't be used as a punitive measure, right?
Mhm.
The one good thing is that when you make a referral, typically to EAP or any kind of peer support, no one's, whoever made that referral, it's not like the person who's checking in on that person is going back and saying, hey, guess who I spoke to today? Like, there has to be, confidentiality has to be paramount with any kind of program. That's the only way those programs exist. Um, and there also has to be a level of understanding that sometimes uh, schedules are going to have to be changed. Someone's going to have to take leave, you know, in the event of you, Jay. And Jay, I'm sorry, I didn't know your daughter was going through that. Had I known, brother, I would have been there. But like something like that, um, you know, that's something where it's got to be understood that someone's going to need to call out at a whim's notice, and there can't be any questions about it, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, um, so yeah, could it be better, Carm? Yeah, I think every police agency in this country should have some form of a program.
Yeah.
I don't care how small it is, right? Even if it's like a chaplain. I know not everyone's religious, but something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And if they don't, at least reaching out to neighboring departments to see if they could assist, because it's needed. Um, and as far as like the administrative side of the house, if you don't have the funding to do one, by God, try to,
Mhm.
right? Um, I think you went over this in one of your episodes. I remember hearing it, but like, because the recruiting crisis that's happening, we're not necessarily, um, getting the, and I hate to say it like this, but it's not it's at the top tier. The reason that the top tier was the top tier is because they went through psychological, you know, exams and stuff to come on the job. And, you know, the person who's smart enough to realize that this would be a very dangerous climate, difficult climate to be a police officer in, would actually be the perfect person to know when they need to reach out to like peer support or EAP, right? Um, So we're in a because of the current state of recruiting, we're hiring people that normally wouldn't take the job. They're, you know, and this is all opinion, but if they get in trouble, right? They're probably more inept to have to make a mistake, maybe. Like, I guess I could say that. Well, if that happens, we can't just drop the hammer, right? Like the current state of where we're at as far as recruiting police officers is a direct result of, in my opinion, the media and politics.
Yep.
It's probably set us back 50 years. So we got another 45 before things go back to normal. Like, let's take it easy with the people that are answering the call, right? There's going to be mistakes that happen. Let's not be so quick to come down with the hammer. So if you're listening, Tish James, chill out.
Hallelujah.
Now, I'm sure, and I agree 100% with everything you're saying. And I'm sure you're not trying to say that you don't want accountability for police officers that are doing things that are deemed wrong. And I know that's not what you're
No, no.
suggesting. I think it's more of a common sense approach that we're looking for here, in that you don't need to hang somebody out to dry every single time just to prove a point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm not condoning, like, listen, any bad behavior. All of us were very honorable police officers with integrity, right? You mess up in front of me, right? And I'm going to do what's right.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, like, you know, I'm trying to think of a good example, but so years ago, if someone got in a DUI accident, that wasn't necessarily job jeopardy.
Hmm.
And today's client, I don't know. I think it may. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
People can change.
Yep.
This is a line of work. Uh, any first responder. Hell, I'll put military on that too. You get some of these guys and girls that did 3, 4, 6 deployments, right? It's very easy to develop a chemical dependency on alcohol. Right? Most people in those line of works are very confident people. So, you have alcohol, they feel confident about themselves that they can drive themselves home. Listen, if the accident's not involving the death of someone, those I have my feelings on that. 10 years ago it wasn't necessarily job jeopardy, right? But now, we just, hey, you're terminated.
Yeah.
Can we see if we could help them help themselves, right? There's a lot of vetted, very good facilities where they could go in, and there's outpatient programs, there's things like that. I don't necessarily think we have to hit the kill switch on that. There's ways we can help.
Yeah, and you know what? Not for nothing, but what other profession do you get a DWI, to your point, and the job automatically fires them, right? There's hardly any major profession where that would be the case. I'm not making any excuses for law enforcement either. I don't think they just should be punished. They should have some accountability for what they did. But why is it just because they're law enforcement, do they need to get fired? Because if you were a lawyer, or if you were a teacher, a teacher that in that same DWI accident, it's not a guaranteed firing. It's probably some counseling. It's probably some meetings, and maybe some punishment. But I think it should be across the line. Let's have some accountability without, because to your point, like I think we don't have. I wanted to talk about recruiting a little bit more. I'm glad you brought it up, but we're not getting the cream of the crop right now. It's just not happening for a number of different reasons.
Yep.
And when these individuals, the new gentlemen, these new females that are in this job, and they're screwing up and fucking up, like we can't go to you're fired, as the first component of how we deal with it. We have to look at ourselves and how we can do better, for sure.
Having dealt with those situations, Phil, do you feel as though because of the lessening of the standards in recruitment, do you feel as though there's more of an increase in incidents of troopers and other members of the state police getting in trouble because of the lessening of the standards?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, so because things are just in general a little more hands off. A lot of it could be generational, right? So like as we get older, there's some groups that they played sports, everyone got a trophy kind of age group. I always broke it down, and it was unfair to do this, but the tier 2 and tier 6, nothing against either one, but I knew, because those two retirement things happen to be the line between anyone who grew up in the 80s and anyone who grew up was born in the 2000s and grew up there. So it was just easier for me psychologically to like put it in that. I would say more bold mess ups happened with the younger group. The ones that made you scratch your head, like, why would you think that was a good idea? Well, a lot of that has to deal with how they were raised, parenting, pop culture, right? We've seen it firsthand. I've never seen during the Floyd riots, I've never seen America, like, because of like the news and pop culture, like turn their back on an entire profession because the news said you should.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And again, just to touch back, listen, if you have a drinking problem, reach out to a person like myself, right? We'll get you to help. I don't want anyone thinking that I'm saying you should be. I'm just saying, if the regular public doesn't go to jail for certain things,
we shouldn't either.
Yeah, like, in the same breath, since I bring this up, and I hope some bosses are watching this, right? Former bosses. You could prove the same point with a 10-day suspension that you do with a 30. 30 days, you're just hurting the person's family. So I don't know if that helps. Just shorten those things.
I have a very
Really?
difficult question to ask you too, and you probably have a hard time answering this. And I'll apologize because it wasn't in the framework that I sent you, but I just thought of it a little while
Can
ago.
I help? Yes, I am perfect, and he knows I'm perfect, and there's really no debating that. It's like I'm the epitome of perfection. Go ahead with your question.
Phil, he exercises extremes amount of humility, as you can tell.
I'm far from perfect. I know that. It's a joke, dickhead. Go ahead with the question.
I got it. Thanks, sweetheart. Um, in the situations where you have somebody who, say you have a member who has expressed suicidal ideations, and they are obviously in the position where they're having a really have hard time, and they've said certain things that come to meet the mark of potentially it turning into legal ramifications, like with the advent of extremist protection orders, and the fact that somebody makes a suicidal threat that, now under this new red flag law that it effectuates this process called the ERPO, where their guns are seized for safekeeping under that civil order. What's your position on peer support groups or EAP folks who have to deal with people who make those threats? Because that is, as we know, historically a huge barrier to certain people communicating with EAP, right? Because they fear that they're going to lose their job, they're going to lose their guns. What are your thoughts about that? It's a very important topic that I don't think we should pass over.
No, not at all. So right, there's certain. So I was also a crisis negotiator, but like, there's questions that can be asked. Hey, Joe Smith. I hope there's no Joe Smith watching, but like, John Doe, are you going to kill yourself? And John Doe's like, yes. All right. That's, regardless of what my role is, you know, I'm calling whatever authorities I can get to your house to save your life if I can't get there in time. Right. So that's like where it's just like, we're trying to save someone's life.
Yeah.
If someone comes to me and they say, yeah, I thought about killing myself, and I even had a plan. I currently have a plan. The same question, like, are you going to kill yourself? Right. There's, oh no, I'm not. So with that aspect, like, there's no asking someone if they have a plan. Anyone can have a plan,
Mm-hmm.
right? Doesn't mean they're going to kill themselves, right? Um, if you ask someone direct, are you going to kill yourself? And they say yes, and they have the means to do it, they're the red flag, the ERPOs, TERPOs, it's inevitable at that point.
Yeah.
So if a police officer has to make that call, or a boss on someone that works with them and knows where the statement's made to them,
Mm-hmm.
you really can't feel bad about it. We're all obligated to do what we can to save a life.
Right.
And I always tell, like, when I was a negotiator, I always had it in my head, my job, if I got called upon to do that, was to give that person who I'm speaking to 24 hours. Because at the time, it was the mandatory hold for hospitals, was they could keep you for 24 hours. What happened after that, I mean, unless I'm there, like, it's completely out of my control. I've seen people going through a difficult time, right? I won't give names or agencies, but going through a difficult time, go to an area hospital for a voluntary mental health evaluation, right? There was no ERPO or TERPO, right? So I guess in a sense, I understand the reason that the state has it.
Mm-hmm.
The incident down in Rockland County was a few years back. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, Carm. It was a I think a few murder suicide of a
Oh, the
family.
husband who killed
Yeah,
the wife. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I do
remember.
remember.
You know, that obviously has put some of the judges issuing these ERPOs on they're more conservative on how they approach that.
Yeah.
And they should be, right?
Right.
But I've never seen anyone. I will tell you this: I've never had anyone voluntarily go in for a mental health evaluation because they were struggling ever receive a ERPO or a TERPO voluntarily. Involuntarily is a different story. So I don't know if that answers your question, Carm.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's an important topic, and it seems to be a common theme nowadays with the red flag laws being enacted. Some people consider the red flag laws to be overzealous violations of the Second and Fourth Amendments to the Constitution, but it is an important discussion, and it is a necessary thing to do to protect, obviously, those who are going through those situations. Do you think that police administrations take this stuff seriously enough in terms of programs to be put in place? In particular, another tough question. Do you think New York is taking it seriously enough?
The New York State Police, yes, I do.
Yep.
And I'll tell you why. Like, they substantially increased the manpower for their employee assistance program,
Yep.
which is a positive. Right now they're in a good spot. The current superintendent was a colonel of employee relations at
Yep.
one point. I worked for him. You couldn't have any better person right now who supports a program like that, because he knows the inner and outing workings of it, which is a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Is every NYPD, they have a fantastic system down there. Anytime I call them with a question, like, they give me whatever I need. They're so open to helping other agencies. It's quite remarkable. But I get it. Not everyone has the budget that they do, right? But could some agencies be better at it? Yes, of course. A lot of that has to do with finances.
Mm-hmm.
I think now, because you're starting to see a lot of like young police chiefs, right? I mean, in another 5 years, they may be tier 6 police chiefs,
Yeah.
because that would be it. And they're a little more open to addressing mental health, right? It's not necessarily a red flag to them if they can help their people who work for them. They'll do everything in their power to get that done. That's starting to happen. I just ask, if an agency doesn't have the funding for that, find one that does and is willing to support you, because like I said, having something is better than having anything. And I really do care about our people. Like, being a cop, and it's especially in today's climate, it's such an honorable thing. And it's not to knock on the other first. I love all our first responders, but like, typically when the fire department shows up, everyone's happy that they got that cat out of the tree. When we show up, you know, I don't know about you, Jay, but like, one of my first thoughts is like, did someone just throw anything, and do I need to put a helmet on? Right? I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you think about
Actually-
firemen? Actually, do you think that firemen are? Because didn't I hear you say at one point that there was some sort of branch off? Was that you that was talking about that? The fire departments, because obviously they see the same horrible,
Yep.
traumatic shit, and ambulance and EMS folks as well. What are your thoughts about those professions?
Well, I'll tell you this. For the firefighters out there, I'm going to make your heads even bigger than they are right now, right? But when I was looking at their life expectancy, it's almost 10 years more than the police officers, right? And here's a big reason why. When they go to a really bad call, especially like a paid fire department that works like the two 24-hour shifts in a row, they're with each other for another day, right? 2 days if it happens within an hour of their shift. And they talk about it. They eat together. They have weights there. They're lifting weights or playing a game of pickup basketball outside the fire station, but they're eating together. They're talking about it with each other. They're able to decompress. They're able to decompress that and not go home with that without being able to verbalize those emotions. Whereas like the cop culture, right? And I'm sure we're all guilty of this, but as soon as our shift was done, bro, we're in that locker room, we're changing,
Yeah.
and we don't want to be heard.
Yep.
Heading for the hills.
Heading for the hills. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a few questions. Kind of got away from me here, but
Nobody likes you.
no, I know. The retirees. Where do you feel? We talked about Eric a little bit about like programs for retirees. One of his statements was, you need to do, like, if you're a retired law enforcement, you need to do something. If not, you could go down that same rabbit hole from doing something every day to being like, that mundane lifestyle that can eat at certain people. And what are either your opinions or maybe something that Carm and myself aren't aware of that could be done to help retirees within retirement?
Yeah. So Eric's 100% right. I watched the episode and heard him say that. He's spot on, right? You don't necessarily have to do something to make a boatload of money, but you should do something. And if you could do something you're passionate about, not a single day would feel like work, right? Um, and this may be, listen, I might get some flack for saying this, but like I said, I give you the thorns before roses. Uh, our career is like, so our careers is not our identity. So when you make this job your identity, you kind of start seeing the world just black and white. There's a lot of gray and color in the middle there that you're missing.
Yep.
Right. And then when the career is over, what do you now have? Because this was all you did. Right. That, so be careful of that, especially you young first responders out there. Right. This
Yep.
is a career that attributes to your overall identity, but it cannot be your identity. Right? If you're leaving home because work is your safe place, come talk to a person like myself, because that's wrong. That's not how it's supposed to be.
Right.
You go to work because that's your career, but your safe place always has to be home. But so keeping a well-rounded, diverse group of friends, I recommend not all your friends be law enforcement, because sometimes you got to run things by them and just hear an outside ear. Right. It goes back to not seeing the world black and white. The other thing is like pick up a really like we're all very creative people. Every person on this planet has like 3 things that they're super good at. It's true. Every person on the planet has 3 things that they're exceptional at. Try your best to find 2 of those, right? Have like a plan after retirement. Stay busy. Do some outreach, right? For all you people who are like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right? Hey, there's a lot of like programs set up where they're just trying to make sure that the next generation of kids have something to do. Not everyone could afford to go away on vacation or camps in the summer. There's a lot of kids in your community that's just sitting around. Like run some day camps, get with your local towns, try to start up some programs, right? Have something like that. Teach people how to fish. There's a few programs where they bring veterans out and teach them how to fish. I thought that was pretty neat. And it's run by first responders. So kudos to those people. Kudos
That's
to
very cool.
Dwayne at Heroes, Cowboys, and Companions.
There you go. So you actually brought it up, so I kind of want to get a more specific opinion, and you could dance around it. You could do whatever you want. You don't even have to answer it. But our recruitment efforts, this has been one of our staples to our mission here on the podcast, is kind of cleaning up our recruitment efforts and making them more consistent and more towards a professional end of things rather than these lighthearted Legoland WWE versions of their recruitment that they're doing. And that slight little snicker kind of gives me my answer that I'm looking for. But what are your thoughts, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So if you're trying, and I know exactly what commercials, the recruiting, but we're a serious organization. This is serious work that we're going to do. Now we do have some laughs, and there's things that we do great. The state fair with the little, the dog demonstration. All right,
Yeah.
excellent, excellent.
Yep.
The kids love it.
Great.
Sort, rappelling down the building.
Yep.
Kids, ladies love it. And but when it comes to like the one commercial in which you're referring to, the one, with the wrestler, right, the
Yep.
WWE thing.
Yep. Yep.
To me, that was kind of on the embarrassing side, right? I took this career path because we are the elite in the state, right? We walk taller, our shoulders are back, we march well, our uniforms are nice, the Stetsons are crisp. And when you kind of joke around too much, uh, you may lead some of these recruits we're pulling in to think that this is this is a rose garden. Like,
Yep.
make no mistake, I'm not saying every day of work is terrible as a member of the New York State Police, but I am not wrong in this when I tell you that there was probably minimum of 5, right, incidents in everyone's career where it was terrible.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm
Absolutely.
being generous with a minimum of 5.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I think there was trying to think of the agency. I don't want to get the wrong agency, but I don't know if it was Virginia or Pennsylvania, but they had a state police video which basically showed the recruits showing up, getting screamed at,
Yep.
and doing tons of push-up. They just looked awful, right? And then they had them kind of out of that phase. The next clip was to them wearing somewhat of an academy uniform and marching, but also still getting wrecked doing push-ups and jumping jacks, right? And then it had a clip of them graduating. And then on the side of the road, and then it had like a boat and a helicopter, like something like that, right? It's perfect,
Agreed.
you know?
Absolutely.
Agreed. Yep. They don't need to be the wool doesn't need to be pulled over their eyes and thinking it's something that it's not. Let them know ahead of time, and you're going to get more appropriate candidates. Maybe not enough, but you'll get more of the right ones for sure.
Yeah, we don't have to like embarrass ourselves to get recruits,
No,
you know?
no,
Not at all. Very good
we
question,
didn't.
Jay, about the retirees too, and very, very good question and very apropos because there's a lot of people out there who are watching who are retirees in different capacities.
Yeah.
I think I cut you off. You're probably going to ask the question about his current mission.
Wow, you just jumped inside my mind. That's exactly where I was going.
Mind reader.
Good job. Good job.
Go ahead.
Yes, it's exactly where I was going. No, so yeah, just circle back around, and now we want to clean things up and kind of focus on where you're at now. Before we started the podcast, me and you talked about how you were bringing some, going through some interviews, and I don't know what you can or can't talk about, but just here with the Orange County Sheriff's Office, what role are you in, and what is your guys' mission there?
Yeah, so it's Orange County Emergency Services.
Emergency service, I'm
So
sorry.
yeah, Pete Srigliano, again, he's a retired captain from our job. He's the commissioner of emergency services, and Robert Doss, he's retired from the town of New Windsor. He was a police chief there. He's a deputy commissioner over here. This was their vision, their brainchild to create a peer support program. And like Steve Newhouse, the county executive, was all on board with it. So they pretty much reached out to me, Pete and Rob, and told me to build it, right? And the vision we have is that it's going to be all 4 disciplines. So dispatch, EMS, fire, police, right? I'm interviewing the people who are interested in it, to, see what they're about, see what their passion is, see if they'll be a good fit. We're going to get them trained in assisting individuals and groups in crisis. And then they are going to add to this web that we created here and doing the outreach for peer support, for those very reasons that I started with, a confidential program that's basically here and designed to help our first responders through critical incidents, traumatic events, loss in their personal life, loss while at work. Maybe they have a sick family member at home. Maybe they're sick, right? Maybe they are struggling with alcohol and substance abuse. Maybe they have a family member struggling with that. Our job is to receive a referral, assess what they have going on, assist them in building a plan of action, and if need be, refer them to a higher level of care, but never forgetting about the most crucial part of any peer supported EAP program, which is follow-up, right? And we're not just for the active members, right? We're also going to be a service for our retirees as well. And that's one thing I wanted to say about our retirees. Anyone who's actively working, if you know of retirees, and it doesn't have to be your agency, it could be other agencies. If you know that there's some retirees that live in your patrol area, hey, stop in and just say hello to them, right? Everyone who's an active police officer, you are the direct result of experience from someone who wore that uniform, right? That's why we have an FTO and an ATO program. I like to say, like, the troopers when the state police was established, right? It's it's very very much quite possible that all three of us here have, you know, something that they did, learned from something they did that was passed down. You know, the way the program works, because you have an FTO, then they retired. You have an FTO, they retired. So like, there's a level of tradition, and there should also be that level of like respect and like, hey, thank you for paving the way and doing the job, because it's tough when you know. And anyone who's ready to retire, this is something that like I had to deal with. Number one, you'll get the best sleep of your life for the first 3 months. Not having to worry about that phone going off or Tish James trying to get you. Um, it's like liberating. But the other thing that you miss, you find yourself missing the clowns, but not necessarily the circus. And I miss all those clowns. Like, I know I can just call any one of them up. I text you all the time, Carm. I know I can call you, Jay. Jay, you always answer the phone if I ever called, and I appreciate that. But like the everyday interaction, because we forget when we're working, we spend just as much time with our colleagues than we do our family. Like we just as much, right? 8, 12, 10 hours a day.
Sure.
Um, and you know, it doesn't hurt to like stop by and say, hey, how you doing? Or hey, you want to go out for a sandwich? Or come by the station, we're having lunch, which was one of the things like SP Havistraw, the culture there was just outstanding. I always admire how you know, SP Havistraw and SP Riverside. The culture in those two buildings and how you all took care of each other, outstanding. I always admired that.
Yeah, we always tried to make it. That was one of the things I always tried to implement or to carry on the legacy, because it was already there when I got there. And you had great people who fostered that element, and we just tried to carry it on. As I understand it, it's definitely a little bit different now after the cool kids are gone, but it was a good time for sure. And very quickly, I want to mention Pete Strigliano is a great leader and a great dude, and known him a long time. Tell him I said hello.
I shall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same here.
Good man.
I always liked Pete. Never had any problems with him. And I'm one to do the Sal end of things. I'll give the thorn before the rose, and I always got along very, very good with Pete.
He's
There's
a
very
gentleman.
few people I could say that with, but like not much bad I could say about the guy. And I'm glad he
Yeah.
brought you on there as well, because I'm excited to see where you take things there. So you've been there since then. When did you start?
So I started February 3rd.
Okay.
And like anyone that's out there, like, and like I said, this is a program that you know, we're not trying to replace anyone's program. We're just an addition to what you already have. If you ever need help, we're out there. Again, we service Orange County, but if someone out there needs help, right? Um, doesn't hurt to call. Like we could put you in touch with the people that can help. Again, state police, they have a very good EAP program.
Yep.
Um, uh, NYPD, if you're out there, NYPD, your health and wellness section, it's outstanding. I mean,
Well, the
the
person
inspect,
who replaced you in the troopers, Jen Johnson, amazing person, an amazing representative for EAP. Truly, I know her personally. Great.
yeah, outstanding human being, and that was a little like, and this is the God's honest truth. So knowing that I was retiring, I obviously wouldn't know who's replacing me because the timeline doesn't add up,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be on the interview panel, nor should I, right? But I was hoping that whoever replaced me, that the troop would be in good hands, because I know there's still people that are actively going through stuff.
Yeah.
When I found out that it was Jen, it really allowed. It was like it was like a cherry on top of the retirement, right? Like, great. I know there's good people that are in good
Yep.
hands. So, yeah.
My
You know,
my
you-
retirement job before I left it was I worked at a local hospital as the director of security, and I had some interactions with Jen for different things that had happened professionally related to stuff that ended up there. And Jen is just she's just a great human being. I just want to say that again. So absolutely. Jay, sorry I
you
cut you off.
No, you're fine. Phil, you brought up something which I found interesting. You said that, during the transition period, as you're about to retire, one of your concerns were, and of course you would say that because that's just a human being you are, but you knew there was some pending, let's just call them issues that you knew needed to be resolved. How was it dealing with that? Like that must have been a little bit stressful, no? Like thinking to yourself, man, I still have these things that I have to be finalized, and I want to make sure that those are taken care of appropriately. How'd you deal with that? Like, I would have been worried.
Yeah, no, it's like, and those issues I was very talking about was like, so members of ours that were still like going through
Yeah.
stuff, and again, because of confidentiality reasons, like it's not like whoever takes my spot, I'm gonna give them the tea. Like, no, they're gonna have to figure that out on their own, or hope that that person reaches out to them. Um, I'll be honest with you. I still speak to those people well into retirement because I refuse to leave anyone behind. Like, I know professionally that's probably not the right thing to do, but I truly mean when I say I love our people. Um, and I just do my best from this role to guide them. You know, uh,
Yeah.
hey, this is the person you should call for that. And they're I never ask if they're currently talking to someone who did what I did, like like talking to Jen. I don't want to do that, but they could always now talk to me as a friend, which is like actually kind of cool, right? It's like all the people that I met professionally, like now we're friends, and it's just not only is it them venting stuff going on in their lives to me, um, they're actually taking the other side of that. I'm proud to mention that a few of those people that I'm talking about is going to join my program, so I'm very happy to hear that.
Oh, that's
Uh,
really cool.
yeah.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Carm, what do you got?
I got lots of love for you both. That's what I got.
Yeah, same.
And I'm good. Phil, do you have anything else you want to talk about while you're here?
No, I love what you guys are doing. This is much needed. I know a lot of retirees really appreciate it too. They love, I know a lot of active members appreciate it as well. A lot of times you guys are saying things that they want to say
Yeah.
and needs to be, because the people that need to hear it, they're actually listening to you guys too. So you're
Yeah.
actually helping retirees. You're also helping current members. Keep doing what you're doing. I wish you nothing but love and success.
Thanks,
On another
brother.
note, if you're in the Orange County area, you ever want to stop by at the Orange County Emergency Service Building, just to say hi. If it's more than hi, I'll be glad to help. Thank you, Carm and Jay, for allowing me on the show and giving me the platform to spread the good word. Again, this is something I'm very passionate about. Um, I do believe that programs like this is now putting a dent in that suicide epidemic that policing went through, not too long ago. Unfortunately, there's still some more. Like
Yeah.
there's still some that happens, but I'm sure we were all on the job at the same time. There was a time like I'm just like we got to do something, right?
Absolutely.
Um, and that's when New York State EAP decided to go around, especially during Suicide Awareness Month, especially around the holiday months, when family members could be feeling lonely because of loss of family members, to actually go in there and tell out these stations, hey, these are warning signs to look out for, right? If you feel like and just talk to our membership. If you feel like there's no one out there, but there's always someone that will listen,
Yeah.
right? um so in parting, in parts ways, next month, what is it, we have Suicide Awareness Month coming up, right? If you haven't spoken to someone went through a tough time, check in on them. Right? That's free. Yeah, you
Yeah.
could be a good person for free. Um, Check in with our retirees. For our retirees out there, make sure you're doing something for yourself. Uh, find a hobby. Be very proactive with your self-care. I want us all to live like north of 90, right? It pains me when I see us leave, before 70 years old. So stay healthy out there. That's
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we want to really just personally say thank you for coming on. Thank you for all you've done for membership, active, retired, family members, other departments over the years. Your work has been so impactful and so important. Thank you from my end. I'll let Jay do the
Yeah.
close out here.
The outro, if you will. Thank you, Phil, so much. I think this particular episode, more than other, kind of culminates and puts into perspective where and I don't want to speak for Karin, but our vision has been, and it makes me feel fulfilled. It makes me feel like I have a mission. This started off not as a knee-jerk reaction, but more of like a, hey, let's see where this thing goes. And the amount of momentum that we are gaining is very rewarding and encouraging. And we are going to continue until we either can't stand each other or we get bored of it. I don't think either one of them. I don't think either one of them are going to happen anytime too soon, because this episode by itself has been probably the most rewarding because of everything and how we've built it so far. So I deeply appreciate you, Phil, on so many levels. Yeah, and everybody, please take his words seriously and find your outlet, find your person, go get help if you need it. We are here as a potential outlet. As Karim described, we are not trained professionals, but I've talked to a few people just on some simple things, and I think they've gotten some reward out of just simple conversations. We appreciate all the sharing, all the comment, and all the liking that you do. Even if you have some comments that you want to just give us some criticism on, I am open for that as well. I'm always open to any line of communication regarding the podcast. So thank you once again. Episode 22 is nothing but amazing.
I want to add something in here.
Our
loyal followers and the people who are just finding us, please keep spreading our word. The work matters to us. Our message matters to us. What Jay, I completely agree with what he said. We want our word to be spread further and further. So keep sharing our page, keep saying what needs to be said. And go ahead, Jay, close it out.
Yeah. And it doesn't hurt to tell everybody how great I am. That'll just boost my ego a little bit. Phil, thank you so much.
Anytime.
I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir. Goodbye, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.